Very good. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing. And then Julie.
And I have a lot of dreams, and like I'll wake up, I'll go to the bathroom, and sometimes I go back to the same dream. So I just wanted to learn more.
Okay, very good. It seems like dreams is like the big thing that everyone's into, everyone's here for.
Spiritual things.
Okay, very good. So you're in for a good course. And Susan?
I just want to find out what's out there in reference to the subject matter.
Okay, just the whole subject. Well, one second, we forgot your name.
Oh, my name is Susan.
Susan, okay. There we go. So you're interested in everything.
I just want a taste of everything to make sure that what I hear out there, now I know what's real.
There, you came to the right place. You
Yeah.
want to hear what's the Jewish approach.
Yeah, I don't want to hear just people thinking the Bobby minds is up there.
Right, you know, poo poo poo, Kanai Nahara, what does it all mean, right? Okay, thank you, Susan. Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Rosenbluth, and I, just like Amanda, since I was a tiny little girl, I've always had dreams that are in color, print, sometimes recurring dreams. I mean, I have most of my night is spent dreaming, and I always wonder, so what is the meaning of life, and what is this, what is the whole global picture spiritually and like, what is this about? What's my meaning of my purpose in life? I know that's something. And the other things that I'm interested in is like the evil eye, and you know, I think this is just the whole course is fascinating.
All right, it's right up your alley.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And Bob, right?
Yes.
Okay, Bob, welcome.
Exactly.
Shalom, shalom. No,
Thank
you
you.
came right in time. We're just doing some introductions.
Okay.
So you can tell everyone your name, and if you'd like to share just for 10 seconds, something that you're really
Sure.
interested in.
Yeah, I've been interested in metaphysics, the occult, spooky stuff, whatever, all my life. Partly I can credit that to my mother, who was Ukrainian, and I don't know if you know much about Ukrainians, what they're about as spooky is. If you're a Yuki, you know you're spooky.
Well, I hope we have no ghosts hiding over here.
There we
But they say at every family reunion, there are a couple of ghosts in the closet.
go. All right. Yeah, I'm just a general, as I said to Rabbi at the phone, couple of weeks ago, I'm not Jewish, but I'm an admirer very much of Jewish culture and what little I know of it, and especially the mystical aspects of it. So I'm looking forward to learning from you.
All right, looking forward to sharing that. Very good. And then we've got Randy. Shalom, shalom. You're in the wrong place for studying. The food's out there. I'm kidding. You can make yourself.
I create software for Atria and Torah research, and it's interesting to hear what you guys say about this.
Okay, very good. Beautiful. And then turning around this way, we've got Barry. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Sergel. And I love coming here. What do I know else?
All right, very good. That's it. Beautiful.
And I'm Bobby, better known as Knuckles. Say hello to everybody.
Okay, okay, beautiful. Moving to Zoom, Don, do you want to take it away?
Sure. My own fascination is with the effect that the neshama of those who passed away has an influence in our lives.
Okay, that's a big one. That's coming up later in the course. So thank you for sharing. Marina?
I would like to know about Jewish approach to dreams, to superstitions, to evil, to maybe astrology, to all the stuff that we call mystic stuff. I want to know Jewish approach to it.
Okay, beautiful, very good. Like others have said, you know, you hear so much out there in the world, and what is the Jewish approach to all this? Erin, shalom, shalom. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Shalom. I'm interested in uh curses, hexes, and dreams. Thank you very much.
Okay, there we go. And then finally, Bob.
Hi, I've always read a certain amount of folk literature from Eastern Europe from the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. And it's hard to read something that doesn't have some reference to a sign, spirit, or superstition. But when I read it, there's no background to it. It's out there. I don't fully appreciate what they're talking about. So I'm interested in learning about the Jewpernatural as it applies to the folk literature that I read.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you everyone for sharing. Bob, can I actually just move in a bit so we can see?
Oh,
I'm not sure if it's your,
Yeah, sure.
so we can see the whole projector. Okay, now this course, I have to say, this is our 6th JLI course that we're doing here at Chabad, and it is very different than any course we've done before. Normally we have Kabbalah, we'll have, which this ties in a little bit with Kabbalah, but it's very different. We have Jewish history, lots of Jewish learning. This is totally different, totally out of the park, something we've never done before. And we see the interest. This is our largest attended course to date. We hope to outdo that with the next course coming up next year. But Ma Nishtana, right? Ma Nishtana, why is this course different than all other courses, right? So it's only 4 weeks, it's not 6 weeks. So we'll start off with a little story of someone that had a dream. And we'll call her Sarah, a good Jewish name. Sarah wakes up in the morning, she turns to her husband, and she says to her husband, I had this dream last night, and in this dream you bought me this beautiful diamond ring. Can you tell me what is the meaning of this dream? Can you tell me the interpretation of this dream? So the husband says, I'll tell you, just wait, I'll tell you what it means. So he goes to the store, he picks up this nice gift box, comes home at night, it's wrapped beautifully. She's so excited. She has this, wow, look at this. I had this dream, and my wishes are coming true. And he presents her with this beautiful gift box. She opens it up, and inside, to her dismay, the answer to her question is in a book called The Meaning of Dreams. So she was a little disappointed, but there's this other story, I think it happened, they say it happened with my grandfather. He was in the theaters, and he wanted to tell everyone in the future what's going to happen. And so he said, oh, look at this, you see this Titanic, it's going to sink, right? He was going crazy, and everyone looked at him like a lunatic. And then they threw him out of the theaters, and everyone was able to enjoy the rest of the story happily ever after. But at times, we are given messages. I think that messages are given to us through dreams. Tonight we're going to focus on dreams. We have a lot of other interesting topics that we will be covering over the next few weeks. And tonight, specifically, we're going to address, where do dreams come from? Is there any meaning to dreams? Is it Narishkeit? How much attention, if any, should we pay to our dreams? And can we interpret them? And what can we do to have better dreams? What can we do to have better dreams?
Who's making the information available to us?
Okay.
I mean, what sources are?
What are the sources? So great question. Everything in the book has a source to it. So the curriculum is prepared by a group of scholars in actually all over the world, but primarily in New York, the Jewish Learning Institute. They spend a lot of time preparing the curriculum and the workbook, and everything in the textbook has a source. So if you look at text number 1, you'll see right on top of the text, it'll give you the source. If it's a newspaper, if it's most of them are going to be Jewish sources. So everything is sourced, and we're bringing all these sources together to present the authentic Jewish view on everything Jewpernatural. So before we get into it, before we get right into the lesson, I want to do a little poll over here. Just a little poll. Just raise your hand if you believe, if you think the answer is yes, or what you believe. Don't feel pressure. If you don't want to share, that's okay. But here's a couple of questions just to get the temperature in the room, see where everybody's standing, and see what everybody's most interested in. So here's the first question: is do you believe in spiritual energy? Any type of spiritual energy, something beyond the naked eye? All right, very good. What about, do you believe in psychics or psychic ability? Okay, and we also have the people on Zoom we can see up over there. How about ghosts and spirits? Anyone here believe in ghosts or spirits? Not sure, yes, no, okay, we have a little mix. Communicating with the dead. Does anyone believe we can communicate with the dead?
I do. Believe we can pretend to do that.
Can pretend, okay, we have some mixed opinions there. Some people do, some people strongly not. Reincarnation, raise your hand if you believe in reincarnation. Okay, astrology. Less. Astrology is, I think, rating the lowest over here. What about life on other planets? Do you believe there's life on other planets?
Probably.
Probably.
No doubt.
You're gonna hedge your bets, maybe not.
Not like this week.
Not life as we know, but maybe some sort of, okay, so most of us, I would say, I think all of us believe in some sort of paranormal idea, which is why we're all here. We're all interested in some ideas we may believe in more than others, and we're excited to present. Elliot, come on in. We're excited to present the authentic Jewish view on all of this. Here, Elliot, this is for you. And you can grab a chair, squeeze on in, and welcome. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with showing some information, some polls, belief in the paranormal phenomena amongst US adults. So let's take a look at this poll. Spiritual energy, 42%. Psychics, 41%. Reincarnation, astrology, belief in at least one of the four entities above is 62%. And what we're finding is, or not, I shouldn't say we as in me, but we as in the pollsters out there, is that especially after COVID, the belief in the paranormal has really risen. There's a lot of exploration, a lot of interest in all these topics. So that's amongst US adults. We have British adults. The numbers, interestingly, astrology is pretty low, which reflects most of the crowd over here. But we have, again, pretty high numbers, like, 36% believe in ghosts and spirits. Canadians, 32%. Communicating with the dead in Canada is down to. But this is all goes to show that there's a lot of interest in all these topics. So we're going to get right into a story of a dream, and we're going to analyze what the Jewish approach would be to this situation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the first video presentation.
900 feet long, 175 feet from keel to funnel, bearing over 2,000 souls, including several of the world's wealthiest. Experts had crowned it the unsinkable, and it was making good time on its maiden voyage. One Jewish man, though, battled a feeling of unease. Isaac Frauenthal was born in Pennsylvania in October 1868, on the Jewish festival of Hoshana Rabbah, meaning Great Salvation. He opened a law practice in New York, and in March 1912, he traveled to Nice, France, to attend his brother Henry's wedding to Clara Rogers. The newlyweds journeyed on to the English port city of Southampton to ride the luxurious Titanic back to New York. And why not? A new life, a new ship, a liner predicted to live happily ever after. Isaac chose a scenic route through.
Yeah, I'm gonna reshare that. Right in the middle of the height things, right?
Save the best for it.
I know, right? We wanted to. All right.
Did someone say a spirit stepped in?
Yeah.
It's my mother's ghost, because I'm sulfur. Yes.
All right, we're gonna restart the share to the projector.
Reshare.
So thank you everyone for bearing with us.
Okay, hold the chair here.
Absolutely. Matt, is everything plugged in? Everything looking good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming up. No, I didn't. So what's going on tomorrow? We were here yesterday, today?
Yeah, right. All right.
I totally forgot yesterday.
Oh, no, it's that's
So
nice.
nice. Yeah, I heard I should bought.
It was great. It was
Nice.
adorable.
Yeah.
Okay,
Based it.
thank you everyone for bearing with us. I think we should be good now.
Give him a couple minutes.
No devices found.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, we're really in luck here.
Sit down.
Here, Karen, give me this so we don't spill it.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna restart this. If not, we'll share it from the computer screen.
You might wanna bounce the Wi-Fi if it can still connect it out.
Yeah.
Like disconnect and reconnect.
Oh, the whole reboot thing, that's just, you know,
Oh, that's true.
we should know what it's doing.
No devices found. Uh-oh.
We should know.
You know, this is Murphy's Law over here, right?
He knows. That's okay. We're patient, Rabbi, we're patient.
And that should be good. Guys, I think I'm gonna share, everyone on Zoom can still see, is that right?
Worst case,
Beautiful,
worst
beautiful.
case reboot.
You know, 69 degrees.
No, it's not that. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna turn the laptop screen around and we'll continue the video. It'll be a smaller screen,
Oh, okay.
but we'll continue this. Not really? All right, one last time.
Next to you, he rolls. You don't have to. Software gonna know.
Oh, you don't know what you were
Oh, God.
You know it all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go back a couple of seconds and we'll continue the
This
video.
in New York. And in March 1912, he traveled to Nice, France, to attend his brother Henry's wedding to Clara Rogers. The newlyweds journeyed on to the English port city of Southampton to ride the luxurious Titanic back to New York. And why not? A new life, a new ship, a liner predicted to live happily ever after. Isaac chose a scenic route through France, boarding the Titanic at Cherbourg the day after Passover. He paid today's equivalent of $4,000 for a first-class ticket. But he was jittery. Days earlier, he had an awful dream. He saw himself aboard a colossal steamship that crashed headlong into something large and began to sink beneath the waves. He awoke shaken, but dismissed the dream because he believed neither in dreams nor the supernatural. The night before boarding, his dream reoccurred. An oceanic collision, helplessly sinking. Escape, escape. But the sun rose, and so did he. A lot less certain than before. Was there anything to this? Should he board the Titanic? Should he share his dream? No, they would mock him. The ship was Isaac quietly boarded the Titan of the sea, but he later found a moment to share his fearful vision. As expected, he was roundly ridiculed. Until 4 nights later, when, at 11:40 on April 14th, the ship's lookout spotted a colossal iceberg dead ahead. The Titanic reversed its mighty engines and lurched to the left, but its starboard was lacerated. Ice tore into steel, and water dragged the ship's throat downwards. Isaac heard the captain express terror and ran to rouse Henry and Clara. Too many passengers refused to abandon ship at midnight, unable to believe that a lifeboat was safer than an Olympic liner. But Isaac had seen this vessel sink twice already. As he rolled into a lifeboat, he said, "Well, Henry, I wasn't so foolish, was I?" Henry wasn't sure. Surely such an engineering wonder could remain afloat until it could be repaired or towed. But the Titanic's stern rose into the air with hundreds clinging on. Snapping clean in two, the vessel plunged into the eternal silence of a bottomless ocean. 1,500 souls were lost. A nightmare, a reality, in the heart of the night. One sunrise and 6 hours later, Isaac was hoisted aboard the Carpathia, which sailed on to New York. He no longer doubted that something had forewarned him about the disaster. Isaac Frauenthal dismissed his disturbing dreams and sailed aboard the Titanic. If you had been in his position, would you have done the same?
Hindsight is 2020. So the question was like this, you can see in text number 1, inside your textbooks or your handouts, right over in there, I think it's page 9, I believe it's page 9, you can see a summary of the story of Isaac's dream that he had. He actually had the dream 2 times. He had the dream 2 times, and the question is, he was a little nervous, but he did not act upon his dream. The question is, what would you have done? Would you have done what Isaac did, or would you have behaved differently? So you can just call out anyone wants to share.
If I had to do, I would not gonna.
You would have not gone.
I have predictions of all kinds of things.
No.
I think,
My whole life, it's like,
I think my analytical stuff would have overruled even my superstitious self, and said, it's the Titanic, we all know it's unsinkable, they told us it's unsinkable. And so you had this silly dream, just get on the boat.
And you would have.
I would get on.
You would get on the boat.
So how does that relate to sixth sense then? Like if you have a sixth sense, something doesn't feel right, but you can't prove it.
So if you feel something very strong, you have a premonition that this is going to take place, this is going to happen. So do
here, it's like.
Right. Like if you feel something very strongly, if anyone on Zoom wants to talk up, feel free to chime in.
I would certainly have gotten the
So
board.
this is the question. The question, so Isaac, let's analyze this for a moment. What did he do? He went on the Titanic, but as soon as the Titanic hit that iceberg and the lifeboats came, it was midnight. Many people said, no, this is unsinkable. We're going to be all right over here. We're never going to sink. And what's a little bang, a fender bender. And many people actually said they would rather, this is what happened, they would rather stay behind and enjoy the amenities of the Titanic over going for a few hours, over going into that lifeboat. And that's what they did. But Isaac, on the other hand, as soon as that happened, he remembered his dreams. He said that he's going to go on and he was one of the first ones on the lifeboat. And as he left, he said, oh, this was, I knew this was going to happen. This was a dream that I had. So we bring up this story because I think a lot of people are here have had some sort of dreams. Maybe a loved one has communicated with them. And what do we make of this? What do we make of someone coming to us, appearing to us, communicating with us? How does Judaism, which is what we're here to explore, how does Judaism look at dreams? Do we give it any credence, or do we say, oh, it's all marish kind of it's Baba Mises? So Bobby, I have a question for you, or anyone can help him out. What is a source in the Torah for a dream that we take seriously? Joseph, thank you. Joseph's dream.
I know.
I knew. I know. I know my cousin. Anyone else can think of any other dreams that the Torah discusses?
Daniel Nebuchadnezzar had a bunch of dreams.
Daniel Nebuchadnezzar.
Jacob's ladder.
So if you look on page number 6, you'll see a few examples of different dreams that we have in the Torah that are taken very seriously. As a matter of fact, Yosef's dream is the most famous of them all. It's spoken about at length in the Torah. So we have over here the dream of Avimelech. Hashem appeared to Avimelech in a dream. We have Lavan. Hashem warned Lavan in a dream not to hurt Yaakov. We have Jacob's ladder, which is a famous one. We have the story of Yosef, the story of Paro. And the story of the cupbearer. So we have a lot of stories in Genesis. We have especially a lot of stories about dreams and their interpretation. So what does that tell us about Judaism's approach to dreams?
They definitely believe them.
They could have meaning to it, right?
What about the one where he said, you're going to be 7 years of bad and 7 years of
right? Yeah,
that's
Paro's dream. Yeah.
I used to have 3 dreams. Because I left my high school, went to another one, I had a dream, I went to my first high school and was lost, couldn't find my way. I had another dream where I went to U of I and I did go and I went to take tests and I didn't open the book all year, whatever.
Mhm.
So like I visited these places. And then my dreams or my nightmares went away. I wanted to visit my first high school.
Wow.
And Champaign.
And you're able to calm that down.
Didn't want a purpose. I was just going to these
That's where you
places anyway, but the dreams stopped.
So let's take a look at Paro's dream, right? Paro is one of the most famous dreams of all time.
Right.
What was his dream? He had seven, just as a refresher from Hebrew school, right? He had 7 skinny cows, and there were 7 robust large cows, and the 7 skinny cows ate up the large cows. He had 7 ears of grain. They ate up the small ones, they ate up the large ones, they didn't get any larger. So what does he do with this dream? He asked the Egyptian astrologers, who we'll learn about next week, were successful, and they were able to predict the future, not accurately, but they were able to see into the future. So they had some backing to them, and they couldn't interpret his dream. He hired dream interpreters. No one can figure out what his dream meant until the butler remembered. The cupbearer said, "Hey, Yosef was in prison. He interpreted the dreams properly. They brought Yosef out of prison, and Yosef, with the help of Hashem, was able to interpret Paro's dream. Not only did he interpret Paro's dream, he also became a financial advisor. And he told Paro, well, you got to save up during the years of plenty. Save. You have some money in savings. You'll be able to have some food during the years of famine." And the Torah tells us this story in great detail. So what do we see so far? We see that number one, dreams have meaning. There's a meaning, there's a message to them. But what else do we see from this story with Yosef and Paro?
They're very important, they should not be ignored.
They're important, they shouldn't be ignored.
That the repeating things are to be paid attention to, right? You have like 2 similar scenarios, but maybe different objects, but they're very similar.
Okay, good.
Yes. Like,
How about
numerology.
all the people that tried to interpret the dream? How many tries did it take until they got the correct interpretation?
So Hashem came along and gave the
So
guy.
that he right? How do we know? So the idea is like this: you can have a dream. We know that we see in the Torah, dreams are real, they're authentic, they could have meaning and purpose and a message to us. But interpreting the dreams is not always so simple. Understanding what the message from the dream is may not be as easy as waking up in the morning and saying, "Oh, this is my feeling, this is what it is." And we see that Paro took him a long time until he found the correct interpretation to his dream.
So you're saying just because you have a dream and you have the dream and you have the dream about 2-3 times, just because you don't know what it means, there must be a reason why you keep having the same over and over.
So we'll talk about repetitive dreams.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it at the end of the class. There are different criteria that we have from a Jewish perspective as to what is a dream we should pay attention to and what is a dream we shouldn't pay attention to. So you bring up a good point. We'll get there. But I want to turn your attention to text number 2. We're going to quote from the Talmud, Tractate Brachos, the very first tractate, page number 8, text number 2. Here's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Rabbi Yochanan taught in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, just as there can never be wheat without chaff mixed in, so too there can never be a dream without nonsense mixed in. So meaning to say, Rabbi Yochanan taught in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the great Tana, who yesterday's celebration was all about Rabbi Shimon. Every dream has a little bit of narishkeit inside. So number one, dreams can be true. The dreams can have meaning and purpose. They need to be interpreted properly, which can be difficult, but also there's a little bit of nonsense in there, and you have to be able to sift that out because every dream has a little nourishment. Let's continue. Rabbi Berachia taught, even though part of a dream may be fulfilled, the entirety of the dream is never fulfilled. How do we know this? We know this from Yosef's dream. So the third paragraph, the source for these statements is found in the story of Joseph's dreams. Joseph dreamed that the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me, referring to his parents and 11 siblings. One of his dreams, when Joseph was 17 years old, he was sold as a slave by his brothers. They were upset at him because a few years earlier, he had some dreams and he was very happy to share those dreams, talking about how great he was. And one of the dreams was that surrounding him were the 11 stars and the sun and the moon. The 11 stars referred to his brothers, and the sun and the moon referred to his father and mother. Now, there's one issue. his mother had already passed away. So we may know what the interpretation of the dream is, but there's always something that's not going to be true in the dream. And this is the source for that statement of Rabbi Barachia and Rabbi Yochanan, that every dream will have something in there that's not 100% accurate. So that's something. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's recap over here. Dreams, they can be predictive. They can be telling of what's going to happen in the future. They could be sending us a message. There are many, many other stories in Judaism of messages that were given over through dreams. We don't have enough time to go through all of them. But if you'll notice on page number 11, on page number 11 in the workbook, you will have a list from the Talmud of different things that you can see in a dream and what that can mean. It may or may what that interpretation may be for you. So if a person sees themselves getting a haircut, ascending a roof, laying tefillin, and the list goes on and on and on. You can read this after the class. 3 pages here of different things the person can see in their dream and what their meaning and message may be. So we know that dreams, from a Jewish perspective, has meaning. We know that it's hard to interpret. There were people which were employed as dream interpreters back in the day, as you see from the story of Yosef. But even when interpreted correctly, there's going to be something that is nonsense that's going to be mixed in. So dreams having meaning doesn't mean we know the meaning of it. And here we have a recap up here on the screen. Now, here's another idea, just to throw it in over there, right? Everything seems so simple, very clear cut, but there's a lot more to explore. And there's something else. There's always the other side of the coin. On the other hand,
Yeah.
right? The Torah doesn't tell us about everybody's dreams. The Torah tells us about certain dreams. So perhaps the Torah only told us about the important ones, but perhaps not every dream has meaning to it. Some do and some don't. Maybe some dreams come from another source. We'll talk about where that can come from soon. So it's not 100% clear that all dreams have meaning, but we know that dreams can have meaning.
Or
and
all
can be
dreams do have meaning, but we don't know how to interpret.
We don't know how to interpret it.
See,
that's another side of looking at it. But
Those dreams that you have and you can't put them together. the
you
right
don't
way.
remember what they
You
are.
just say, you know, little bits and pieces, but it's
Right.
disjointed.
So we're going to talk about what the criteria of a dream that we take seriously or not in a little bit. So we're going to get there. So hold that thought. We're going to get back to that. So we're a little bit of a tough spot. We know that dreams have meaning, but how do we know which dream, right? Let's say you remember certain parts of it. You don't remember the whole dream. It's one example. Let's say you see the dream 2 or 3 times. What else can be something that you would think would be a trigger as to why you should take a dream seriously?
If it happened, something you thought of and it really came through.
Something you
Your own dream, and then wow,
you saw that it actually happened, right? But let's say you had a dream that the Titanic is going to sink, or that the certain airplane that you're destined to go on is going to crash. So when do you take action? I'm just throwing out a couple of questions. Do you take when would you take action based on a dream? And when would you say, oh, it's just a dream? You know, we'll leave that behind.
It's harmful if something harm comes to you.
So if you're worried, if you have a fear
And
that
if something's going on in your life and you dream that it went down bad, you would look into.
you'll look
what
into,
exactly happened.
especially if you keep reoccurring it, you get.
So it's true, if you have a reoccurring
Over
dream,
and
that's a
over.
sign that you should take that dream a little bit more seriously than other dreams. Another sign is if you wake up and it's vivid, it's clear to you, that's a sign that this may be a more serious dream that you should be careful about.
Only 5% of the dreams I was reading before I came here, 5% of dreams people actually remember.
Remember, right, because we dream
But
all,
those,
we dream
they
all
must
the
be
time.
really important that one, because you can have, or like anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of dreams.
Throughout the
And
night,
if you're only reading one, then there must be a reason.
right,
Is
So-
there a way to? I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I rarely remember my dreams, like
Mhm.
almost never. Is there a way to develop the ability to
To
remember?
remember the
Yes.
dreams.
I read that the
You can
ones
write
that
yourself.
we remember.
That's it, that's interesting, so Matt is gonna help out over
I
there.
read that the ones that we do remember are the ones that are just before we wake up.
Yes, I did, yeah, because you're not sleeping as deep.
Right.
So the ones in the morning, sometimes you'll fall back asleep in the morning, you'll remember those a little more clearly. So the
Yes.
question is, how do we know which dreams are important, which dreams we should pay attention to, and which dreams are total narishkeit and we don't have to look at it at all? So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at some sources. We're gonna go through the Talmud and we're gonna take a look at Jewish sources, and the spoiler alert, it's not going to be so simple. We're going to see contradictory statements, and our job together is to explore the sea of the Talmud, see what the different statements in Jewish perspective is about dreams, and to try to reconcile the differences between them, and through that to come to a greater understanding of how we today can relate or should relate to any dreams that we may be having. So,
Excuse me, does Kabbalah also?
Talk about dreams? So we're not gonna be getting too much into Kabbalah tonight. We're gonna be looking at Jewish law and the Talmud primarily. So let's take a look at text number 3, page number 10. Page number 10, we have a quick text over here. And it's again from the Talmud, from Tractate Rakos. And the Talmud tells us that a dream is 1/60th of prophecy. A dream is 1/60th of prophecy. Why 1/60th? Anyone know what's significant about 1/60th? 1/60th is the minimal amount from a Jewish perspective of something that is considered to be of substance. Anything less than 1/60th, we don't look at it as anything. So for example, if a tiny little drop of milk falls into this big pot of meat, if the ratio is less than 1/60, we say it's still kosher. It's nothing. It's garnished.
Where did 60 come from?
So it comes from the Talmud. That's the measurement that's used that's the smallest measurement that's used to tell us if this is something that we even consider to be something, to be a substance. So when we say 1/60th of prophecy, what we're saying is that dreams have substance to it. They have something there. They're a little bit they're not complete prophecy. I wouldn't say that if someone has a dream that they can say, wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, God appeared to me and told me A, B, C, or D." Right? We have to be careful how we interpret it. But there is a little bit of prophecy in our dreams. So based on this text of the Talmud, if you were to be asked from a Jewish perspective, do dreams have meaning? I think we would say yes, they have prophecy. Dreams can be a method of prophecy, a way of Hashem communicating to us something that's going to happen in the future. So that's one interesting source that we have from a Jewish perspective. Let's take a look at another text number 4. Page number 14, text number 4. We have an interesting story about how seriously dreams should be taken. There is a concept in Jewish law called a tanis chalam, which means a dream, which a fast that we have after having a nightmare, after having a terrible dream. There is a concept of fasting the very next day. Let's take a look at text number 4. Fascinating story over here of Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Idi. He visited the home of Rabbi Ashi. These are Talmudic sages, and they, a great sage comes to visit another great sage. And if we don't pull out a bottle of fine wine, he offered him a whole meal. So his host prepared a third-born calf and offered it to him to eat. Why third-born? The third-born calves are the softest, the best quality. So he's giving him a very good meal. He said, "Oh, you're my guest. A great distinguished person is coming." He offered him a delicious meal. And Rav Ashi responded, "I am observing a fast. Thank you for the offer, but no thank you, I'm fasting today." So they countered, the host said, "Do you not agree with the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda that a person may break a self-imposed fast and repay his obligation by fasting on a different day? If there's a fast instituted by Jewish court, so everyone is obligated, those that are healthy and fit are obligated to fast like right before Purim, or on Tisha B'Av is a famous one. And you can't switch those fastings and say, "Oh, I'll eat today and I'll fast tomorrow instead." But there are times where a person can voluntarily say, "I'm going to fast in order to come closer to Hashem as a spiritual service." And generally, the ruling is, if you started your fast on Monday and something came up, you were offered a delicious meal and you couldn't resist, you say, "You know what? I'll fast tomorrow instead of today," and that's allowed. So that's the meaning of this. Don't you agree that you can just do your fast tomorrow instead of today? So Rav Ashi replied No. This is a fast due to a bad dream. And therefore, Rav Bar Mechasya taught the name of Rav Chama, who taught the name of Rav, that a fast nullifies the importance of a bad dream, like fire consumes flax. And Rav Chisda stipulated that the fast is most effective when observed on the day of the dream. And Rav Yosef added that such a fast may even be observed on Shabbos. So, the fast that takes place after having a bad dream, it's a bad message or something really scary that happened, the antidote to having a bad dream is fasting, and that fast is so important that there's only one other fast day that supersedes Shabbos. We have 5 fasts throughout the year, 5 fast days, and Yom Kippur is the only one. It's the only day where Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos that we still fast. If Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, so Gedalia, Asar B'Tevis, any other fast day falls out on Shabbos, we fast the next day. We fast on Sunday. Yom Kippur is the only day, because it's biblical, Yom Kippur is the only biblical fast that we still fast on Shabbos. But here we see that a person is allowed to fast on Shabbos if they had a nightmare on Friday night, because the fasting after having a nightmare will be the most efficient in getting rid of the bad dream and the bad message by fasting on the same day you had that dream. So you look at this, you're like, wow, we take a bad dream very seriously enough that we'll fast the next
Is
day.
it the whole day you have to fast?
It's from morning to it's a full day. Sunrise to sunset. But now what's the purpose of fasting, right? Let's take a look. If the dream is important, if the dream is really sending a bad message, why bother fasting? It's destined. This is going to be.
Wasn't there one of the 12 readings we had way back when, where he dreamt that they were trying to poison him? Remember that?
So we'll get there. We have a big
there
list. But let's stay focused. Okay, let's take questions in a few minutes. Let's get through this section, and then we'll pause for questions.
Okay.
We want to respect everybody's time. At the end, we'll be here all night, and we can take questions, for as long as we can. So what do we see from this story in the Talmud? Number one, we take dreams very seriously. But number two, we instituted a person is able to fast because we believe that through prayer and through repentance, nothing is set in stone. So if someone has a bad dream and they're terrified, oh my goodness, this is going to fall through, this is going to happen, that's not happening. Nothing is set in stone. Even if you believe that you interpreted this dream correctly, properly, there's always something that you can do to avert a bad decree, and that is through prayer, through repentance, and through charity. Those are the methods that we use to avert anything that we're worried about. Anytime someone's ill, we always go to daven, we always do another mitzvah on behalf, for the merit of the person that's ill. And the same thing is true of a bad dream. Nothing is set in stone. You have a bad dream, okay. So there are certain things we can do. So one thing is fasting. You can actually have a fast, and we'll talk about if we actually do that today or not. But that is one of the remedies for a bad dream. Nothing is set in stone. Everything is from above. Everything is set. It comes from Hashem, and Hashem is the one that's really in charge.
So this is not above a mind, so this is it.
The dreams.
This is how
to take care of dreams. So we'll talk about which dream, a dream that we take seriously. So we'll get to at the end which dreams we actually take seriously and should be worried about, and what our custom is today in regards to fasting. But the idea is that we're bringing Talmudic sources to show us that dreams are a very serious thing. So everything seems great. Dreams are good. All of our fears, unfortunately, they're there. It's true, and we have to be careful. But I'm going to flip things around a little bit, right? We're going to take a look at another section of the Talmud in text number 6, where we see a fascinating story. Page 17. Thank you. Page 17, text number 6. This fascinating story where the rabbis were able to play with the minds of world leaders at the time. So Karen, do you want to read for us text number 6 in the English?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
But very loud so everyone on Zoom can hear.
Rabbi Shmuel last Monday taught in the name of Rabbi Yonatan. People are only shown in their dreams, products of their own thoughts.
The Roman emperor once said to Rabbi Yehoshua, the son of Rabbi Hananiah, "You Jews claim to be very wise. Tell me then, what will I see in my dream tonight?" Rabbi Yehoshua replied, "You will see the Persians capture and enslave you and force you to herd pigs with a golden staff." The emperor thought about this vision all day, and at night he saw it in his dream.
Keep going.
Keep going. There's more.
King Shapur once said to Shmuel, you Jews claim to be very wise. Tell me then, what will I see in my dream tonight? Shmuel replied, you will see the Romans take you captive and force you to grind date pits with a golden mill. The king thought about this vision all day, and at night he saw it in his dream.
So here we see the Talmud flips it around, and in another scenario, the Talmud says that dreams are nothing. They don't come from on high. They're not a premonition of what's going to come in the future. It's not a prophecy. It's Baba Mises. You know what it is? It's whatever you're thinking about all day long. That's what you're going to dream about at night. And we have stories to prove it, and the stories are very specific. The Roman emperor who was seeking, he wanted to test the Jewish leaders to see if they're really so wise. Rabbi Yeshua answered him, you know what you're going to dream about tonight? He told him something that was very scary, and it was also very obsessive. It was an obsessive fear. So Rabbi Yeshua knew that the Roman emperor was going to think about this all day. He told him that the Persians, his biggest enemy, are going to capture him. He's going to have his golden staff, but instead of leading his army and his people with the golden staff, he's going to be leading a herd of pigs. And he was petrified from this thought that this is going to happen. And that's how Rabbi Yeshua knew he's going to think about it all day. And at night, he dreamt about it. The same thing was with King Shapur. Shmuel told him that you're going to be forced to grind date pits with a golden mill. A similar idea that these great kings will be held captive by his enemy. Oh, maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. They thought about it all day. And at night, that's what they dreamt about. So what do we see? The rabbis planted a seed, an obsessive and scary thought, kept their minds going all day. And indeed, that's what they dreamt about at night. So what does that tell us about dreams? It's nothing. It's just whatever you're thinking about during the day. So you think about good things during the day, you'll have good dreams. You have some Narishkeit in your mind, some silly thoughts, then maybe that's what's going to happen to you. That's what you're going to dream about at night. Let's take a look at one more text number 7. Two more texts. We have 2 more texts for this section. Text number 7 is a very interesting story of a dream. And what happened was the person that had this dream had a halachic question, a question of Jewish law. We're going to see how the rabbis dealt with a question that came about due to a dream. But before we get into the text, just a couple of introductory remarks so we'll understand the text a little bit better. Every year, a person has an obligation to give 10% of their earnings to tzedakah. But in biblical times, there were additional taxes, if you will, or additional tzedakahs that were given to the people. And one of them was that in addition to the truma that they gave to the Kohen, the portion they gave to the Kohen, they gave 10% to the Levites. After giving 10% to the Levites, they would then give 10% to the poor people. This applies specifically to the farmers. Most of the Jewish people in Israel were farmers. That's what they did. And 10% of their produce had to be given to the poor people, except it was a 7-year cycle. And we have the 7 years of the Shemitah cycle. So in year number 3 and year number 6, the farmers were allowed to keep their produce, that 10%, and instead of giving it to the poor person, they had to bring it with them to Jerusalem, and they can eat it there in Jerusalem. Now, you've got produce from a whole year, and it's a big schlep to bring all that produce with you to Jerusalem. Your farm's not quite nearby. You have these horses and buggies. How are you going to bring all this produce to Jerusalem? So the law is that you can sell in the market, and take that money. And with those funds, take that money to Jerusalem, spend it on the finest Italian restaurant you can find in Jerusalem, and Chinese, Roman restaurant, right? Support the economy. This made sure that all the Jewish people gathered together. They came together in Jerusalem, and it ensured that the economy would be supported. All the restaurants, all the stalls were there, everyone. It was a win-win situation. So listen to what happened. So now this money that's set aside for what's called the second Meiser, the second tithe. The second tithe, those funds are considered to be holy, and they can only be used for their intended purposes. They can't be used for anything else. You can't borrow from it, invest it in the stock market for a little bit until you make it to Jerusalem. You have to hold on to it until you got to Jerusalem and spent it over there. So let's take a look at what happened in text number 7. As a person was troubled about the whereabouts of money that his deceased father left him. This is pre-banking era. What did people do with their money? They hid it under the mattress, they dug a hole, they found someone they can rely on, they would store with. Someone passed away, and their son couldn't find his father's treasure chest. He couldn't find his funds. So he dreamed that his father told him exactly how much money it was and where it could be found. But his father stipulated in the dream that the funds were consecrated as Meiser Sheni, as the second tithe. So he went to that specified place, and indeed he found the specified sum of money that his father told him about in the dream. But now there's part 2 of the dream. His father told him that these funds were already designated as the second tithe, and therefore they can only be used in Jerusalem and only be spent there and in the marketplace in Jerusalem. So the person didn't know what to do. He found the money, everything lined up, the dream was true, the money was there, it was the right amount of money. Did he have to, was the money considered holy? It can only be spent in Jerusalem. So the sages instructed this person that the contents of dreams are irrelevant, and he need not treat the money as Meiser Sheni. He need not treat the money as sanctified, consecrated for a loophole. Or the rabbi said the dreams are irrelevant. They're nothing, they're nourishment. Like, wow. So we have, on the one hand, we have the prophecy, and we have all the biblical sources for the importance of dreams. Then on the other hand, we have all these other sources where the Talmud and the rabbis are saying dreams are irrelevant, there's nonsense, and it's just whatever you think about during the day, don't worry about it. This one in particular is very interesting because some of the dream was true. He found the money. So what does it mean that the dream is irrelevant? So the commentaries take this apart, they analyze this. We're not going to get into all the details, but they say that every dream has nonsense to it. Every dream has a little bit. We know that there's one thing in the dream that's not going to be true. So someone comes to the rabbis and say, oh, I had this dream. Do I need to act on the dream? So the sages are not going to instruct someone to take an action based upon their dream, because we don't know how to interpret the dream properly. We don't know what's true and what's not true. You found the money, it was the right amount of money, good. But we don't know about the rest of the dream. Maybe it's nourishment. Maybe that's the part that's nonsense in the dream. And therefore, the commentaries say that what the rabbis are saying is we're never going to instruct someone to act upon their dreams. There are certain things that you can do, like you can fast, you can pray. We're not going to tell someone don't go on the Titanic because of your dream, because we don't know what's true and what's not true in your dream. But nonetheless, we have to reconcile these two conflicting ideas. We have the biblical sources, we have the prophecy.
Judaism does do one thing, it tells you when's the right time to do something. Like there's certain months that you, like Tisha B'Av, you don't want to do stuff then.
Right, so that's astrology. We'll talk about that next week. But very good, that is true. There are certain times of the month, and we'll get there next week. Sorry. So very good. So this is the taste of the Talmud. Forever it came to the last course, we spoke about Talmudic analysis. This is what the Talmud does all day long. They'll quote this source and that source. There's a contradiction. How do we reconcile a contradiction? So let's take a look at text number 8, where the Talmud continues and tells us the difference between these different scenarios. So, and what's important and unique about this source is that it's going to help us not just with understanding the differences in the Talmud, but it's going to show how this is really rooted in the Torah itself, in the Bible, how there's a contradiction in the Bible about our approach to dreams, and what approach we should take. So let's take a look. Rava, great Talmudic sage, he's on almost every single page of the Talmud, raised the contradiction between two verses. In one verse, God says, I speak with the prophet in a dream. So there we go. Torah says very clearly, I speak to the prophet in a dream. But the second verse states in Zechariah, dreams speak falsely. Two verses that tell us two different ideas. So which one is it? The Talmud resolves this and says as follows. There are two types of dreams. Some come by means of an angel, and some come by means of a demon, a shindalet, a shade. So what does this mean? I'm going to summarize text number 9. What this means is that when we go to sleep, remember that 1/60th number?
Yeah.
When we go to sleep, the Talmud tells us that sleep is 1/60th of death. Why? What is death? Death is the uncoupling of the soul and the body. It's when the soul leaves the body and continues to live on in the next world. It continues on its journey. When a person sleeps, there's a little taste of death in terms of their soul going on a high. During the nighttime, a person's soul still hovers over their body and still there, and we're still alive, but it's 1/60th, a very small, tiny fraction of death, because the soul goes up on high. And the question is, at the end of the day, where is our soul going to? Which chamber is it going to hang out in? And that depends upon how we behave throughout the day, what our thoughts were. Was it a spiritual day? Was it a day filled with nonsense? Was it a day filled with swiping on the phone and watching things? Or was it a day filled with meaning and purpose? And based upon our actions of the day, which chamber our soul goes into.
Who decides?
You decide based on your actions, right?
Self-determination.
So your soul goes up on high. It can be in the chamber of the angels, and it can be receiving prophetic visions. The angels are not limited to our body, right? We have a very limited view. We have our eyes that can, we have tunnel vision. We really do. We can see very little. We can't see the big picture. Think about a person that's, God forbid, think about being stuck in a box with just a couple of holes. You can't see everything that's going on in the room. You can only see what you're being allowed, what someone is manipulating for you. And the same thing is true of all of us. Our bodies are very limited in what we can see, and we don't see the whole picture. But the angels aren't limited to our bodies. And when our neshamas, our souls, go on high in the middle of the night, if they're in the right chambers, they're hanging out with the angels, they're able to receive prophetic visions from messages from the angels. And the soul is always connected to your body when you're alive, even when you're sleeping. And that's where our dream comes from. Problem is that it's very possible that your soul ended up in a different chamber. And it ended up in the chamber with, loosely translated as the demons. For those that are familiar with the word shadim or shindaleds, they don't, we don't have to worry about them today, but they're not here. But they're, for lack of a better translation, we use the word demons. Your soul can be, based upon your actions of the day, maybe your soul went to the wrong chamber and it's hanging out with the demons. The demons are feeding it nonsense and it's terrifying it and saying this is going to happen or that's going to happen. It's assaulting your soul and sending those bad messages back down to your body. And it's very possible that your dreams are coming from Narishkeit. They mean nothing. So we have over here, so an angels can be telling us positive spiritual forces. Our soul visits them while we sleep. They can communicate divine information, but it can also be coming from the demons, which, as we see on the screen, they're impure spiritual beings. And in the context of dreams, they're a metaphor for products of the mind. But in other words, to sum it up, there are 3 places where a dream can be coming from, right? A dream can be coming from an angel, and your dream can be a prophecy. It can be telling you something, a message of something that's going to come. A dream can be coming from a demon, and it shouldn't be listened to. They're just tormenting you and driving you crazy. Or it can come from the thoughts that you have throughout the day, just like we had in those stories of the rabbis that that got the kings to think about bad things throughout the day, and that's what they dreamed about at night. Those are the 3 different places where a person is able to receive a dream from. And we return to our original question: how do we know? you wake up in the morning, you have a dream. How do you know where this dream came from? Did it come from, is it true or is it not true? Is it Baba Mises? So the question is, and then what do you do about it? You wake up in the morning, maybe this was a dream I had because I was worried about this all day, so I dreamt about it. But maybe really there's someone that's coming and sending me a message. How do we know which path we should take in terms of action? What actionable items should we take? Yeah, go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I just want to finish talking.
sure. Okay, any questions, comments?
Go back to what I asked, I go, how do you decide whether you're gonna have an angel dream or a
Right.
Right, that's where we're left at. We're still left hanging with that question. How do we know where our dreams are coming from? If anyone on Zoom has any questions or comments, feel free to chime in.
That's done.
I took a class in college in psychology, and they
Mhm.
said the dreams, most people don't even know they have them, and only 15% in black and white, and most people now come color because black and white, but they grew up with television. But basically, they said your body is very important to dream, whether you remember it or not, because it's a way of settling in your mind all during the day
Interesting.
going crazy. It's
Very
very
interesting.
important.
Okay, very good. So let's take a look at our screen over here. Some dreams come from our imagination. The verse says dreams speak falsehoods. It's referring to those types of dreams. We can have the other verse that said dreams are miniature prophecies. Though that's when a person's soul is in the chambers of the angels. And that's how we reconcile the two contradictory verses in the Torah. Even in those good dreams that are coming from the angels, some information is going to be false. So we're left with the question that Susan posed: how can we identify the source of a dream and assess how seriously it can be taken? Bottom line, we have all the sources and all the ideas. They're all nice and dandy, but practically, what should we do? How do we assess it? How do we assess the source of the dream, and what should we do about it? So, we're gonna skip right over there. So let's go back to that dream that person had, telling us about the money, right? This father came to him in a dream and told him this is where the money should go. This is where the money is, and this is what the money is designated for. So in all cases, we are never going to make a legal determination and take something out of its status quo based on the dream. The status quo is that this money belongs to you. We can't change we can't say, oh, if someone, let's say the dream would have been that father came and said, oh, really, I owe money to Chaim Yankel down the block. I owe him a lot of money, or I pledged this X amount of money for charity. The rabbis will never say you take this money and do what it says in the dream, because we're never going to change the status quo based on a dream, no matter where the dream comes from. The question is, if we take the dream seriously, what can we do about it? So, for example, fasting on Shabbos. That's a very serious thing. We only do that on Yom Kippur. We don't know if the dream came from your imagination or if it came from angels. Therefore, we're not going to change anything. We're not going to change our actions or behavior because of a dream, but we will give you permission to fast on Shabbos from morning to night. If you think that there's a reasonable doubt that this is a real dream, then one should be careful that you're concerned about. We don't know for sure, so we'll say, okay, you know what? You can fast. You can do actions. You can pray. You can do extra mitzvahs. You can do things to bring greater merit, so that if the dream might be true, then you won't. It's not going to affect you.
Is that superstitious?
So it's not superstitious. It's a good question. I would say it's not superstitious. I'd say you're bringing extra merits of protection for yourself, just in case this dream is true and whatever nightmare a person had. Oh, let me do something extra to protect myself. So what are some actionable things? So before we get to action, are my daytime mind and thought under my control and focused on productive and spiritual matters? So the prevailing approach of the of modern day rabbis and works are that today our minds are all over the place. We're not sitting with our families focused on the simple tasks. We're not sitting in the yeshiva or in the shul studying and praying all day long. Our minds are constantly wandering, and unfortunately, we're not always doing such a good job of being in control of our thoughts. As a matter of fact, our eyes are glued to screens more than we would like to, and we allow others to control what comes into our minds, because whatever pops up on the screen, we're allowing that information to enter and we're thinking about that. So a lot of our day is spent thinking about, I don't want to say a lot of our day, but at times there can be a lot of foreign thoughts and ideas that are coming into our mind. And it's very possible and highly probable that the dreams that we have today are coming from that third category. They're not coming from the angels and from the demons. They're just coming because we saw a certain scene on a TV show and it's haunting us and we dreamt about it. And such a dream is something we say is not restraint. We don't take it seriously. We're not going to do anything about it. It just came about because of our thoughts that we had throughout the day. But there are other dreams that we can have that perhaps come from the angels, and they're telling us that something bad is going to happen. The Titanic is going to sink. If Isaac would have gone to the rabbis at his time and said, I had two dreams that the Titanic is going to sink, what do you think the rabbis would have told him? Should he go on the Titanic or not? Based on everything we learned so far.
I would say you're crazy.
It could be either way, because some of the rabbis say yeah, some would say no.
So do we ever take action based on a dream to change the status quo? Right? So the answer is we don't. Even though in the dream, remember in text number 7, the father told the son that money is really belongs, you have to spend it in Jerusalem. The rabbi said, we don't, every dream has nonsense in it. It's irrelevant because we can't interpret the dreams properly. We don't know how to interpret the dreams. So if Isaac had gone to the Gentiles, right? If Isaac would have gone to the rabbis, I think he was in France when he boarded, and then he would have said, listen, your dream is a dream. You had it 2 times. If you want, you can pray, you can fast, you can do extra mitzvahs to bring extra merit, but they would not advise him to change his plans based on a dream, because we don't change the status quo, we don't change our lives based on dreams that we have. If we're really concerned that maybe this dream has a good source, it's coming from a true source, so then there are things that we can do, like fasting, giving charity, praying, trusting in Hashem, and doing more mitzvahs. But there are other things that we can do. 3 times a year, actually 4 times a year, on Rosh Hashanah, on the high holidays, on Pesach, and on Shavuos, we have the priestly blessings. During the priestly blessings, there's a special prayer. The priests don't get to say it. They're busy duchening. They're going, yeah. If you ever heard it, you know, yeah. And they're duchening away. But inside the Siddur, I never even knew this until I was like 13 or 14. I never even noticed this because my father was always the one that was the chazen, and he never taught me about this because he was busy, chanting and singing. I would be under his talus for the priestly blessings, and I didn't know about it until I went to yeshiva. And I'm like, oh, what is this? So we say this? I thought it's just the fine print. So there's actually a prayer that we say while the Kohanim are chanting and they're singing. There's a prayer that we say, and we have the text of it. We have the text of it here. Let me find it. There's a text that we say, text number 14, page 29. And I'll read it out loud. A special prayer that we have during something which happens only a few times a year. We ask Hashem that our dreams should be for the good. So let's take a look at page 29. Master of the universe, I am yours and my dreams are yours. I have dreamed a dream, I do not know what it is. May it be your will, my God, and the God of my fathers, that all my dreams concerning myself and concerning any other Jew shall be for the good. Whether dreams I dreamed about others, or whether about myself, or whether others dreamed about me. If they are good dreams, strengthen them and reinforce them, and may they be fulfilled in me and in them, like the dreams of Joseph. But if they require a remedy, heal them, like Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah, from his illness, like Miriam the prophetess from her leprosy, like Naaman from his leprosy, like the waters of Mara by Moses, and like the waters of Jericho by Elisha. As you change the curse of the wicked Balaam from a curse into a blessing, so shall you change all my dreams concerning myself and concerning all of Israel to good. Guard me, be gracious to me, and favor me. That is one of the prayers that we have. One of the prayers that we have in, and something that we can do is when we go to shul on the high holidays, we're able to say that during the priestly blessings, and that can help us. That if we have true dreams, those dreams should be for the good, and they should only be giving us good things. There are other things that we can do. If we skip over to text number 16, there is someone who wrote a letter to the Rebbe. And they asked the Rebbe, what should I do? I've been having these nightmares. They're haunting me. What should I do about these nightmares? What do we do with this? Right? What do we do? We have nightmares. They're scary, right? Okay, you tell me it's nonsense, but what should I do about it practically? So the Rebbe told him as follows. Page 35. Excuse me. Regarding disturbing dreams, it is well known, and the sages teach about this, that people only see in their dreams the products of their own thoughts. Dreams are the result of idle daytime thoughts, and when the cause is reduced, the result will automatically be minimized. And therefore, what should you do? You should be particular about reciting the bedtime Shema and ensure that the mezuzah of your bedroom is kosher. What is the significance of this? Right? So the mezuzah of your bedroom, that's bringing holiness into your bedroom. You're going to sleep, and you have Hashem's presence right there on your doorpost. So many times people can have a mezuzah, and unfortunately, they're very old, they're cracked, or they're paper. They're not. They didn't know. Sometimes you get the with the mezuzah comes like a paper mezuzah, just a free sample. And the Rebbe suggested you should look at your mezuzah on the door of your room to ensure that that's a kosher mezuzah. So this way you're bringing holiness to your room. Saying the Shema before you go to sleep. What's the idea? Very practical. The last thought that you have before you go to sleep should be a holy thought, should be a prayer. So yeah, some people may like to go to sleep with the late night news. But the idea is, if you go to sleep and the last thing on your mind is the Shema prayer, a holy thought, a good thought, a positive thought, that can have a positive influence on your dreams. The Rebbe didn't say, go to, the Rebbe wasn't using this as an opportunity to say, oh, go become religious. The Rebbe was giving very practical advice of things that can actually help a person.
Mine's 4, 7, 8 breathing, and then I fall asleep.
Yeah, then you can fall asleep. So those are the practical suggestions, the breathing technique. Okay.
I'm gonna try this then. I'm gonna try this and then breathe.
Okay, so let's do a recap. Let's do a quick recap before we open up for questions and discussions. So what we've learned today, we've learned over the course of the last hour and a bit, we learned is that dreams can have meaning. Not all dreams have meaning, but dreams can have meaning. They can be difficult to interpret. Every dream, even a true dream that has nonsense, a little bit of nonsense inside of it, depending upon where the dream comes from, is whether we should pay any credence to it, pay any attention to the dream, and what can we do about dreams? We know that Hashem is in charge. The dreams don't control our destiny, and therefore, through prayer, through repentance, through charity, we're able to avert any decree that may or may not have been communicated to us in the dream. And as well, we can say the prayer during the blessings during the priestly blessings, having a kosher mezuzah in our bedroom, and saying the Shema before we go to sleep are all practical things that we can do to help us with any nightmares or dreams that we may be having. But the bottom line is that dreams can have meaning, and there's something we didn't address at length tonight, and we're going to address it later in the course, is communicating with those that are no longer with us. And based on everything that we said, I think it would be safe to say that it's possible for a person to have a communication from someone that has passed. And every dream has a little bit of nonsense inside of it, right? You know that every dream is not 100% real. And we don't know what's real and what's not real. But I would just want to end off with saying, I think somebody mentioned this at the beginning of the class, that based on everything we've said, I think it's very safe to say that it's very possible that our souls in their sleep are communicating with those that have passed on to the next world. So as a little handout, a little souvenir from tonight's class, we have a copy that we'll give out before everyone goes, of the Shema that you can say before you go to sleep. And there's also another prayer for a safe sleep and to have good dreams that we'll send home with everyone. So I hope everyone uses it, and we hope everyone has good dreams and happy messages and happy thoughts and only good tidings to come. Let's do the recap video, and then we'll open up for any questions.
And direction. 1. The degree of meaning our dreams have correlates with the degree of focus and meaning our daytime thoughts have. People who think with more intentionality have more meaningful dreams. And people whose minds roam without focus experience meaningless dreams. 2. Even if a dream has meaning, not all of its details are accurate or meaningful. Dream interpretation is far from an exact science and can never be considered certain. 3. As a rule, dreams that cause worry and anxiety should be disregarded as meaningless. When dreams do have meaning, their goal is to inspire us to act and improve ourselves. 4. There is no destiny that cannot be changed. Even if we're convinced that a particular dream forebodes negative events, we should know that prayer and mitzvot can change any destiny. 5. Nightmares can be reduced through improving the quality of our daytime thoughts. Firm faith in God and a Jewish bedtime ritual are particularly effective in setting the stage for a peaceful and refreshing sleep experience.
Right.
Is that our Jewish
They have a Jewish
Everybody was
yeah.
different.
They're different.
No.
But yeah, there are different my mother didn't sing Yiddish ones to us, but I know that there are certain Yiddish ones which were known to all the Yiddish mamas that they would sing their children to sleep with. Coming up next week is Stars and Signs Astrology. Do we believe in the power of astrology? Do we believe that it has any power? I think not, right? We know that Hashem is in charge, but is there anything to it? Can it tell us anything? Are there any, can we look at the stars, horoscopes? Can you look at the horoscope in the newspaper? Can you read those? Does it have any meaning to us? And I think you'll be surprised to see what Judaism says, and actually certain things that we do because of the stars and the signs. So there's more coming next week. There's always more to learn, always more to discover. And any questions, comments? The floor is open for discussion.
Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream."
Yeah.
I had a dream.
When you
Yeah.
see this accent, they're like, it doesn't make sense for certain people to be in our house who've never been in our house before, or what is the nonsense?
So the source for that was the story of Yosef, how he left the sun and the moon represented his mother. His mother had already passed. So the rabbis learned from that story that every dream is going to have something that's not true about that dream.
Okay.
Because that dream was foretelling the future. There's going to be, and it actually happened. Yosef's dream was saying that there's going to be a day that all of you, my brothers, and my parents are going to bow down to me. And that happened when he became the viceroy of Egypt. They all came down, they all bowed to him, except for his mother who had passed away. It was impossible for her to come back to this world and bow down to him. So the idea is we learn from there that every dream has something which is going to be not true. Yeah.
Can you influence,
Yes, fast.
I don't even say what. Can you influence, like, I've been trying to be very positive.
Right.
Influence that.
So by positive thought, absolutely,
Positive thought.
absolutely by positive thought. So if there are fears or anxieties that we're going through internally, it's very hard and difficult to control those. And knowing that our dreams are a reflection of that and nothing else, it's not a sign from above that God forbid something's gonna happen, God forbid. But knowing that most of our dreams come from our thoughts during the day, that tells us it's anxiety. It tells us don't worry about what happened. You don't have, you can always dive in. And it's always good to do more mitzvahs and do things to have more protection for the upcoming surgery. So that should go well. You do Mishaberach at the Torah, but that's unrelated to the dream. The dream is just a reflection of what you're thinking about during the day, and it's not a sign from above. Right. So the way we influence it is by saying the Shema at night and making sure we have a kosher mezuzah on the door and trying to think positive things throughout the day.
Speaking of this, I took off my mezuzah, which has been sitting on my door that I didn't even put in. Would you look at it?
I can take a look at it.
And tell me if it's like a pig inside?
Yeah, I could take a look at it if it's,
Out there when I put it in it.
and you don't, so sometimes you'll be able to tell right away. You'll take out the scroll and you'll feel that it's paper. If it's really small, if it's under 4 inches, this is a giveaway.
It's one of those little green ones like.
Product from Israel. So if they're really small, think about, is it physically possible for someone to hand write a mezuzah the size of that mezuzah? So right, so if it's tiny, then it's time to upgrade the mezuzah. Right?
Great, I
Yeah.
like that. Now I can get a new one. Great.
Daydreams you have with night dreams, it seems like there's a big correlation because you're thinking and then you sleep.
The dreams at night are kind of governed by your subconscious.
That's it.
But your subconscious is
Yeah.
something that came from thoughts somewhere. You just all some pop into.
You let your mind wander. You have to be in control, right? You lose control. You're kind of just drifting away. You have to regain control of your thoughts. Yeah.
This has been fascinating. I would do a prayer thing.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
there a prayer where something like, God, let your angels wings surround me while I sleep to protect me, something like that?
something. Yes, I'm gonna give you a copy. I'll move this over here. So I don't have to. Oh, okay, good. So I was supposed to print double-sided, but it printed on 2 pages. There, Amanda, you asked for us, right?
Oh, thank you. I knew this prayer existed, so. See what it is.
Yeah, that's for you.
What is the prayer, Rabbi?
So in the Shema, so we have this. First of all, you have the Shema prayer, and then you have Hamapil. Don, are you familiar with Hamapil?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Try it again.
Hamapil. You familiar? Okay, so I'll send a copy of this. I'll send a copy of the handout for everyone that's on Zoom. It's not in the book. This is a special edition.
They can download it.
Yeah, so I'll send it visually so everyone can download it. And
Please do. I grew up in an atheist family.
Oh, but Don, you know a lot. You've been around.
I've learned a little.
You're too humble. So yeah, here you have the Shema prayers. This is it's actually a biblical mitzvah to say the Shema every morning and every night. So right, you got the Shema.
Yeah, I can say it by heart.
You know it by heart, very good. And then you have the Hamapil, which is the last thing. By the way, after you say Hamapil, the second page, you're not supposed to talk. So as children in camp, this is what they would do. They would put us all to bed. There was lights out, everyone's in bed. Then on the loudspeakers, they would have someone say this prayer, and they would say, "Repeat after me," and everyone would say the prayer, and then you're not allowed to talk anymore. So that's it. No more talking.
It's a great phrase.
Say the second.
Rabbi, can you recite the first line or two of that?
It's V'ahavta.
So of the V'ahavta or the Hamapil?
Shema.
The latter.
Right. So you're wondering the Hebrew pronunciation?
No, because I'm wondering if I know it.
Okay, so.
Ama wir ben Kodesh Hall.
Oh, Randy wants.
It's Havdalah, right?
No, it's not in the Havdalah. It's in the Siddur. I'll send you I'll send a copy in the email. I'll send a copy. It's in the Siddur. It's the very last prayer that you'll say. It's called the prayer before retiring at night. So it's Hamapil Chevle Shena Al Einai. But we'll send it out. You may be familiar with it.
I have the sitter here.
Keep it in your night.
There you go. Keep it right nearby. Yeah.
I need my readers.
You need your reader glasses? There.
Bob, give us the page.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
It's gonna be around page 120, 125, somewhere over there in the Siddur. So you have it there. I need the glasses.
141, I think.
131?
141. Let me look at 141.
This is a good prayer.
Yeah.
No, it really is. What's the name of this? The
So it's
prayer?
called Hamapil. Hamapil. That's how it's called in the Hebrew.
Okay.
So you say, oh, Hamapil to, Rabbi Finkelstein, he'll know what he's on.
Okay. And
Yeah,
So that's the one you say, and then you zip it.
that's right,
Okay,
that's
so
right.
when you talk, after you watch your video, you see
So no, when you wake up, you can talk. Yeah, yeah. It's in the Siddur, yes,
What page? What page?
yes. Aaron, thank you for joining. All right, we see your message, and looking forward to seeing you next week, God willing.
Page 147.
Thank you very much. I
Last
really appreciate
paragraph.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Wow, if I would have known food was this good.
I hope there are no leftovers.
There's a little left, so.
There's a little left, okay, so
Everybody.
everyone's welcome to take and enjoy.
Bracelet. Thank you.
Bob, did I hear you say 147?
140, yeah, the last paragraph, 147.
Thank you.
Starts off with Baruch.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Now, is there a list?
Everything starts with Baruch.
No. Read and
And what?
exercise and perception seems like they're somehow related.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Like the sixth sense that you're talking about.
Was there some kind of went to the link and did they force second?
You know, so that sounds more like a psychic to me, right? Than dreams.
The psychic stupid, but when I was a little girl, I really used to know, we had official telephones back then. Like, I just knew who was calling, and my father was a doctor, and I just knew it was not for him.
That intuition, or you
I
knew.
just knew, and I was like so accurate so many times.
Right.
And I became to think of something. No,
You had that feeling. You know what? There are people that are
ultra sensitive.
So I don't know, there are mentalists that are really able to figure things out about you, it's like you can have a mentalist, you can have a magician that will play you and say, tell a kid, pick a number between 1 and 5 and go like that, right? And force the kids to play with you, to encourage you to pick what they want. But then you have mentalists that are really good, they can figure out what you're thinking, or yeah.
Those would be good in the courtrooms and stuff.
Yes.
Has all these different things.
There are people that are more in tune to the finer details of life. And,
I'm old enough.
Plumbing store in Mount Prospect several years ago. It's on the south side of Northwest Highway.
Mhm.
And a young couple walked in. And he walked up to the proprietor, and before they said anything, they didn't say anything. I knew, and I wanted to say, but I was afraid to, I wanted to say is across the street.
Before they even asked.
Because I knew that in this plumbing store, they were looking for Tri-State Electronics, which is on the north side of the northwest side. Yeah, so the young man walks up to the owner and he says, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to find Christ.
Wow.
And the reason I didn't say anything is because they used to burn people like that. But I've had 3 episodes like that. That for me.
Wow.
I understand that.
So you're able to relate to that idea.
I totally.
And that is for me what gives me some belief, although I admit it's some belief in the survival of life. That the philosopher Plato talks about the noetic plane, the mental plane. And he talks about the survival of the nous. In other words, survival not of this really, but of my personal bobness.
If you're
or- yeah, your rabbi-ness, whatever you're, you know, that entity. Which is ultimately, we're talking awareness, we're talking
who you are, your essence. of
yeah,
who
you
are.
know,
So yeah, Judaism, as you may or may not know, Judaism believes very strongly in life after death. We believe that the soul continues to live on. So our soul is only here in this world for 80, 90, Judaism we say 120, right? Because Moses lived to 120.
Good thing to.
So
divide by
there's
12
100 and sans, like they say, there's still 120. So our soul's here for a short journey relative to time, right? We're just here to fulfill a certain mission and purpose. And once we've fulfilled our reason for being here, our soul continues to journey on to the next world and continues on this journey. It lives on forever and ever. Our soul is the essence of who we are, and therefore are always connected to other souls that are still in this world. So even when a soul leaves this world, the soul of a parent or a relative, they're still going to be very strongly connected with the souls of their family members that are still left here in this world, because there's that soul connection that's there. So therefore, even after the passing of a relative, a parent, or a friend is different. There's still, there can be a connection, but it's a different type of connection, because the soul of a child comes from the soul of their parents. So there's a much stronger bond over there. But that doesn't mean that there's no connection between friends, right? You both have souls, and your souls are connected to one another. So they're still strongly connected, but there's different levels of connection.
My friend who died last Thursday was good friends with him.
Oh wow! I didn't realize you
Yeah,
had.
Do they believe in reincarnation? Jewish.
Do we believe in reincarnation?
When you come back as someone you knew, or a family member.
So that's a very good question. Do we believe in reincarnation? And the question is even more, if we do believe in reincarnation, but there's the resurrection of the dead, how is that going to work? Which body would you come back into? Right? But the truth is, we do believe in reincarnation, and the truth is that almost all of our souls, guys, this is like, you can take this off the record, right? So unscripted, you know.
Chapter 6.
This is lesson 5, you know. So Judaism does believe in reincarnation, and not only that, there are only a certain amount of souls that exist. And most of the souls, 99% of this, I'm just saying 99%, I don't know the exact number, right? But most of the souls, the Kabbalah tells us, have already been in this world. Very seldom will a new soul come down into this world. So what happens is that our soul goes on its journey to the next world, and it goes before the heavenly court, and it's asked, did you study Torah? The Talmud tells us this. It's also, which we're all doing right now. It's also asked, do you conduct your business in an ethical and moral way? Those are the questions. Those are the big questions, right? You know, right next to each other. Did you behave like a mensch? You're an honest person? But then the lifetime of the soul, you know, there's a camera. Hashem's got a camera, not just the actions, but also the thoughts. Not to scare anyone, right? But the person is judged, and based upon their actions, did you fulfill your mission and purpose, what we sent your soul down into this world for? And if yes, good. If yes, but you messed up a little bit, okay, we'll do a little bit of cleansing before we go into the heavenly spheres. But if not, the soul can be sent back down into this world in the form into another body to finish its mission that was originally sent here to do. So yeah, that is very possible.
Was that why we do? We all go to hell for 11 months and then you're getting cleansed and that where all this takes place.
Up to 11 months.
Up to.
Maximum sentence.
No, the maximum is 12. The maximum, but only the really, really terrible people go for 12 months. So therefore, when we say Kaddish after the soul passed away, you only say Kaddish for 11 months, because no one should think that the person they're saying Kaddish for was the worst person to exist.
Unless you actually knew what they were.
Maybe they're
But then we're just not gonna say Kaddish.
right.
I didn't know it was 11.
So we say Kaddish for 11 months.
Is
I
it?
always thought it was.
Why?
So-
is it 11 months? I
so-
thought it was weird.
So there's 1 year of mourning during that
Okay,
year,
there's 1 year of
right? So there's a
mourning.
year of mourning. During that year of mourning,
Yeah.
you know, you have to deny a lot of invitations to a lot of happy occasions. You're not supposed to listen to live music, and a lot of customs we do to observe the mourning. We saying Kaddish, learning, you know, because during that first year, that's the transition time for the soul to go to the next world. Here's, I don't know if I should say this, I don't want to scare anyone, but there's a custom that during the first year of mourning, we actually try not to visit the gravesite of the deceased.
That I've heard.
You've heard that before.
Right.
Thank you, I'm not making it up,
You
right?
went to the grave.
That's the exception. You can do the unveiling. You could do the unveiling. Right, so some people wait a whole year, but a lot of people do that, but you could do it earlier. You are able to do it earlier, but a lot of people wait a whole year. They do it the 1 year anniversary. But you're generally not supposed to, you don't want to disturb the peace. The soul's going to the next world, it's going through its transition. But when we come to the gravesite, we awaken the soul, you draw it back down to yourself into this world to a certain degree. So you don't want to disturb it. You know, you want to let it go through whatever it's going through.
Why can't you go to live music if you're,
During a time of mourning.
yeah,
So that's one of the signs of mourning. Is not listening to live music.
but what if my deceased relative bought me tickets to an event?
Right.
No, but what if they say, please, after I go, live your life and do what
And
you
do it right.
Yeah.
So the laws of mourning apply to a very close relative, which would generally be a parent, right? A husband. The husband is for 30 days. Right. The time of mourning would be less for a spouse actually.
So does that mean that if you visit the grave of, you know, somebody who's deceased, maybe they've been deceased for several years, and you go and you visit their